Thanks for tuning in today to learn more about the power of networking to get you firmly into your career. This is a webinar hosted by Alumni Relations of George Brown College under the administrative umbrella of the Advancement Office. So based on 2021 research, making connections and building relationships are just as important career activities as updating your resume and LinkedIn profile. Why? Because strengthening current relationships can lead to opportunities to build new ones with people who have influence, as well as inspiring people who can support you throughout your career. While people generally believe in the power and validity of networking to help them find their next great job, many see this activity as painful, uncomfortable, or even daunting. And that might be you. In this workshop, you'll learn how to lessen the intimidating aspects of networking, derive the leads and information you need, and present yourself in the most professional way. The webinar is just over 30 minutes, and I have some really great resources at the end for you. So just a quick hello and introduction. I'm Trisha Grace. I'm part of the Alumni Relations team that works with both employers and graduates to support you as you develop your career after graduation. So feel free to reach out and connect via LinkedIn or shoot me a message by way of my email. So the Alumni Relations Office exists for the George Brown College alumni community, which is at about 250,000 and ever increasing. It's where you connect to update your contact information, such as a new email account. If you move, if you get a job, any of these things should be updated with us. The Alumni Relations Office updates everything in our database so we can stay in touch with you and ensure you learn about important activities and events at the college and around the GTA. It's where you can access exclusive alumni benefits that include special rates on home and car insurance, life and health insurance, travel insurance, discounts on entertainment and attractions, and lots more. Also, consider volunteering at the college as a mentor, a guest speaker at an event or in the classroom, or see yourself featured in one of our George Brown College marketing materials through testimonials, grad success stories, or videos. So check out our website, which I have here on the slide, or feel free to connect by email to the alumni office and follow us. To follow us, go to any social media and enter the hashtag GBC alumni. So networking is something you'll need to get comfortable with as you'll continue to network throughout your career. So here is what we're going to cover today. Develop a career. These are our objectives. Develop a career-long networking strategy. Developing a strategy grounds you and provides actions to put you into situations where you're going to do effective networking. We're going to identify and prioritize your networking contacts. It's important to identify who you should be networking with and then prioritizing those contacts according to what you're looking to achieve. Next, we'll discover the best methods to make connections, arrange and conduct successful informational interviews. We'll also discover the best ways to make connections with the right people to get an idea about what a particular industry or company or what a position might look like and how to begin to carve out a career path. And lastly, you will learn about the networking tools available to you and understand the steps in the networking process that will reap huge career benefits. That is the whole concept of networking, or the purpose of networking is to access as much information as possible as you begin to consider your career moves. And there is no better way than to speak with people doing the jobs or in the industries that you really want to be a part of. So I'm going to start with a little game of true or false. So get a pen or pencil or just mentally consider which of these statements you think are true or false. So number one, the best approach to finding a new job is to apply for as many jobs as possible. How many of you think this is true or false? Well, the answer is false. You want to be selective. You're looking for a quality job that will fit with what you want, your skills, your values, and your interests. Apply to select jobs where you know your skills are a fit and where you have a strong interest in the job or the company. This way you take control of the job search and become more active as a job researcher and less reactive. You take charge of your own job search, and that is really, really important. Uh, Not only to be successful in getting a job, but also to keep you positive and motivated. Number 2, you should consider family and friends as networking contacts. Is that true or false? Well, actually, the answer is true. You should spread your net as wide as possible and let everyone know that you're looking for work and the kinds of jobs you're looking for, as well as the skills you're hoping to use on the job. So lots of information, and tell everybody in your circle. You never know who's out there and who can help you. Number 3, an informational meeting is a way to ask for a job. Do you think that's true or false? Well, actually, the answer is false. When you do when you do an informational interview, you're looking for information that will help you to make good decisions about your career direction. You're also making a good impression in the hopes that someone might be able to refer you for an opportunity, but your main reason is to get in front of someone and really learn from them, get pointers, insights, and advice. Information is truly gold. And I'm going to talk later in the presentation a lot more about informational interviews, or meetings they're sometimes called. So number 4, extroverts are better at networking than introverts. What do you think? True or false? Well, actually, the answer is false. Extroverts may be more comfortable with the concept of networking, but introverts can be just as good at it. They just prefer to kind of do it a little bit differently. Number 5, reaching out to former or current coworkers, recruiters, and relevant hiring managers on LinkedIn is an effective networking strategy. Do you think that's true or false? Well, the answer is true. LinkedIn is a great tool to utilize in order to find and connect with people, and you can learn how to use it easily for best results. Number 6, you need to consider your personal branding message when you're networking. Do you think that's true or false? Well, it's actually true. Think about what your brand message says about you when you meet people and when you share your experiences with them. How do you come across? What will they think of you in the way that you present yourself? And lastly, we have number 7, which is over 80% of jobs are found through networking. Do you think that's true or false? Well, it's actually true. And according to LinkedIn, 85% of jobs are filled through networking and referrals. So this is the content we'll be covering today in a lot more detail. So let's start with what is networking. And I think networking is sometimes misunderstood, and I want to clarify a few things today. So networking is building lasting and mutually beneficial professional relationships that help you get connected and discover opportunities. And the key word here is building. It's a relationship that has to be built and in many ways nurtured to fully benefit from. Rarely does someone refer someone they don't know to a job or to speak with someone else because, their reputation is basically on the line, and they'd be far more comfortable referring someone that they know better and they know kind of the quality of their work or how they come across. So there must be some contact of some sort in a networking relationship. Your brand is an essential way for someone to get to know you, and that will come across in your LinkedIn and the way you approach them, and actually everything you do. So if you're on social media, if they search for you, how do you come across? If it's someone that's known you, say in the classroom as a student, and now you want to network with them. How did you come across in the classroom? Were you great on a team? Were you reliable? Did you come in on time? All of those things are part of how you brand yourself. So gain, it's a chance to gain firsthand current information about the world of work. It's a way to connect to experts who have knowledge of trends and opportunities in your field. So networking is a fantastic way to get the most current information about a career path and to access certain information not found on the internet. There's much that can be found, but some things you really need to sit down with someone and ask them some questions and find out from them their insights on what's happening in their industry, or some insights around their company or the job they do. It's so helpful to hear from someone that can give you an inside scoop on what's happening. It can be about industry, it can be upcoming hiring needs, company growth, or trends that are emerging. This info will give you great insights on how you can best build and shape your career path. So pre-pandemic, we networked very differently than we do now. When we were able to do more in-person events, when we can do that, they'll regain in popularity since many people want to connect in person, but be prepared to present yourself in both arenas. Both have benefits and drawbacks, whether it's virtual or in person. So virtual networking allows you to speak to someone from the comfort of your home. You don't need to go across town, worry about traffic and finding parking. Overall, you save money, you save time, and you save on a carbon footprint. You don't need to worry about noise around you when you're trying to speak with someone, nor do you worry you might be interrupted. Virtual networking allows you a more intimate environment to speak with someone, and introverts typically really enjoy virtual networking more than in person, since they don't have to vie for attention and they can do what they do best, which is listen, observe, and absorb information. In-person networking is far from dead, however, as there is a different energy that happens in an in-person environment that builds excitement. If you are at an event where there might be a bit of music and maybe some food and drink, this social atmosphere might make it easier to strike up a conversation with someone about shared interests. In-person events allow you to connect in a more organic way and less scripted way. So you can, sort of pull from the energy around you to start up conversations. And they tend to be, in the virtual networking meetings, they tend to be more scripted. Or if you do an informational meeting, a little bit more scripted. Extroverts may be more comfortable in an in-person event because they do well when they are working with the energy of others. And going from conversation to conversation is what they do best. They enjoy the unscripted moments that allow for authentic connection. Now, as an introvert, if you find yourself at an in-person event, be sure to locate or create a space that you can escape to where you can recharge. Within that space, you'll probably meet other introverts and have some wonderful networking together. I'm kind of down the middle. I'm quite extroverted, but I have a lot of introversion that happens at times. Sometimes it is in those networking events that I feel a little less comfortable. And I've had the most wonderful networking opportunities by just stepping away a little bit and finding a more private space, or just moving away from all of the activity and usually finding someone else who's doing exactly the same thing. And it allowed for really great networking. So think about doing that when you're in the in-person events. So let's talk about the different types of networks. There are different networks to access, and they're all really important to consider. So the primary network is usually people who know you know on a first-term basis. So it could be your friends and family. It could be people that you're connected through your social media that follow you, or you follow, professors, work colleagues, people in your circle, your more intimate circle. Your secondary network are people that your primary network knows and that are in their social circle and who want to get introduced to you, or you want to get introduced to them. So they're the secondary network. So they come from the primary network's contacts. The tertiary network are the general contacts, and they're through your primary and secondary networks, and you may get introduced, or you might get introduced to them through your primary and secondary, or through your research and reaching out to begin like contacts. So finding people within a professional circle, different ways that you would build out on that tertiary network. All three are essential in your networking activities, but it's the contacts in the tertiary group that can lead directly to work opportunities. So how do you make these contacts? They sometimes can come through those secondary contacts, but typically they're people you make contact with in a professional arena, like professional associations, career fairs, conferences, trade shows, or you get to know them through community service or volunteering, or you attend something where others are hoping to build their skills, like a night class or weekend classes, or joining in on a workshop or a course. It's easy to strike up conversation because you have something in common, and they can see you in action and observe what you're like. They can observe your professionalism, friendliness. They can observe firsthand the brand that you're advertising. So as a graduate, you probably know what your association is, but if not, you could just Google professional associations in Ontario, and you'll get a rather large list that you can access to find your association, or you can put in your area of study, like marketing. So Google marketing and associations in Ontario and see what comes up, or associations in, well, typically provincial, so Ontario, or federally, so or Canada, and see what associations come up. You can also Google professional conferences in Ontario 22. So professional conferences Ontario 2022 to see what is planned in this year in Ontario for conferences that you want to attend. Of course, you can also find out about conferences from your associations. So since networking has a purpose as a graduate or when you're looking to move around in your career, and that's really to get yourself in front of people who can help you to grow your career. They can do this in different ways. They can do it by sharing their experiences and what they have learned along the way, which is really good information. They can also share resources with you, or they can share their contacts. So prioritize your network contacts to people that are working professionally, who are well connected in the community, in your community that you want to get into, who work in an industry you're exploring, who are invested in helping you, who understand what you do or is doing something similar to the type of work you want to do, or they have the power, leadership, or recognition to get you some really great information or connect you to the right people. So target your networking to people who can help you in obtaining industry information, learning about job leads, setting up a meeting with you, or acquiring introductions to people that you'd like to meet. It's important as you're creating your list of possible people to reach out to that you know what you'd like to obtain from the encounter. So knowing the information you are seeking from someone will help you to organize your approach, and it'll keep you focused. For example, if you were reaching out to me, it could be to get an introduction to an alumnus who graduated from your program and who now works in the construction industry, for example, if that was an industry you were interested in. Or it could be to set up a meeting to talk to me about what it's like working in the educational industry. Attaching those kind of notes to the people you want to reach out to can be really helpful in organizing yourself as you begin to bring networking into your job search strategy. So with the advent of virtual networking, you can reach out to your networks in a variety of ways, and then you can decide to communicate or connect in as many different ways as well. So think about social media such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram for reaching out. LinkedIn is absolutely amazing. I'm not going to get into it this time round, but LinkedIn, go on. You can sit in on tutorials around LinkedIn and using their groups feature. But it's a great way to find alumni. It's just a really good way to reach out to recruiters, HR, people in the companies you're interested in. Email is another way to reach out and communicate with somebody if you've got their email, to set up a meeting or to ask questions. Texting, of course, is instead of phoning. Phoning is not so common anymore nowadays, but you could text someone to see if they had some available time. So you could set up an informational meeting, or you can just ask questions right through texting. And then having virtual meetings either through Zoom or WebEx, MS Teams, really important to sort of have a face-to-face. So when you decide which ways are most beneficial for you, think about which ones are more comfortable with, and use those as well. So if you're more comfortable in person, try to set up a meeting in person. If you're more comfortable doing it virtually, then do it virtually. My suggestion is that the closer you get to seeing each other, virtually or in person, the stronger the connection. It may not be the same over emails or texts. So if you could try, you should eventually suggest a virtual meeting over something like Zoom, or WebEx, as I said, a call like that, or face-to-face meeting over tea or coffee. If you can avoid meeting over alcoholic drinks for, I think, the obvious reasons. So success in networking depends on 4 things. Knowing what you're selling, who you're selling to, how you're selling, or how you're going to sell, and when you're going to sell. So, so what are you selling? Knowing yourself and then branding yourself is really, really important. That means taking the time to reflect on what you have to offer, then thinking about what kind of company you're looking for, what kind of workplace would you thrive in, consider where your skills and education would fit, and really reflect on your transferable skills that go back and forth from job to job or experience to experience. Those could be your soft skills, like your communication skills, your team working skills, or computer skills are also transferable skills. Project management skills are transferable skills. Those skills that are not particular to one job or career. Think about what your personal strengths are. What are your accomplishments? So really reflecting on what value you have to an employer, so you can think about how you're going to talk about that. Next, you want to think of who are you selling to. So really knowing your audience. You need to know the industry you're interested in. What are the companies within that industry? What do they do? And what are they looking for when they look to hire someone? And how are you going to sell? So knowing the methods of reaching out, what ways will you utilize to reach out? Just as we said in the last slide, will it be through your associations, through LinkedIn, through your contacts? How are you going to find these people and make contact? Once you've got all that in place, now it's time to make an action plan. Pull all of this information together and make a list of companies that you're curious about and people at those companies. Did I mention the word research? Because a lot of networking, before you start to network, you do a lot of research. And then think about when exactly you want to reach out. So, just figuring out some dates on what's important to you. You will need what happened when you reached out. You'll need, sorry, and what will your next step be after the contact. So really it's just collecting a lot of information, tracking what happened, what will the next step be. Do not forget that just because you didn't hear back from someone in the first round of making contact, that they're not interested in you. So sometimes when you set your, when you set some dates around reaching out and you are tracking what you're doing, you want to make sure that you always connect at least twice. And sometimes it's the third time that the connection happens with a person. This is so true from my experience. I reach out all the time to employers, to HR recruiters and grads to be involved in events that I'm hosting. And often it's in the third touch point that they get back to me. So be brave, be persistent, know that they will be so happy that they met with you. So organizing yourself and getting a networking plan in place is super, super important. Otherwise, networking is a lot like nutrition and fitness. We know what to do. The hard part is making it a top priority. Okay, so again, consider, what are you selling? This means you need to consider your value proposition to the person you're meeting with or talking with or the employer. What makes you someone that others want to work with? Think about your brand identity. How do you come across in your online presence, your in-person encounters? How people think about you is really important, and that is what is your brand what is your brand message out to others. So, ask your friends, ask your colleagues, ask your family how you come across, to have them look at your online presence, other things, to give you that kind of feedback. Once you know what you're selling and the value of what you're selling, then you can consider who you're selling to. So who do you want to sell to? Know those companies that you're interested in and what they do, who they are, the company culture. There's so much you can find out when you start to research online. And it does take research. So look at the resources that I've provided at the end of the webinar. I've given you 2 directories of top companies in Canada with a huge list of companies and why they are great places to work. So research the companies. It takes time, but it is well worth it. Then, according to the companies you're interested in, you can begin to create a networking target list. Search for alumni working at the company as well as recruiters. And don't forget to ask your primary network about people they might know in those companies that you're interested in. Recruiters are always happy to hear from you. Alumni want to help other alumni too. So don't be shy. Reach out to HR, to recruiters, campus recruiters, talent acquisition reps, anything like that that you find on LinkedIn for companies you're really keen on, and reach out to them. So then how are you going to sell? So the different ways to connect, I know we've talked a little bit about this before, but once you've researched your companies and established a list of where and who you want to reach out to, now it's about how. And as mentioned earlier, you can connect through various means. So over LinkedIn, by email, text, or maybe phone. Phone can be used if you're calling someone at the office. That's the only information you have is where they work. And you need to find them at their workplace. It's up to you and how you found that person. So if you have any contact information, it might help you to figure out how to connect with them. I sometimes will use LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn a lot. But if I have an email of someone, I find that sometimes works better for me to connect directly with someone. So it's really, really important to make sure to track your companies, your contacts, and the actions that you've taken and the results of each encounter. An Excel sheet is the perfect tool to create and label columns. You can add the information most important for you to track. And I think that's mostly names of people and positions, person's LinkedIn URL, company names, company website, action taken, whether it's reaching out and by what method, or result of your action. So did they ask for a resume? Did they make a date to meet with you? Just whatever came out of your connecting with them, you need to track that. Perhaps you need a column for follow-up. That would be a really good idea too. So let's say the action was you connected with someone and they said, kind of busy right now. How about we try to connect in a couple of weeks? Then you want a column that says connect in a couple of weeks to set up an informational meeting or something like that. Okay, so then you also know that you need to follow up in a couple of weeks. If someone says, send me your resume, I think we may have a job for you actually, then you want to have that tracked as well. So tracking will keep you focused and give you a broad picture of where you are at with your networking activities, which is really important. So lastly, when are you going to sell? Having a plan in place will likely get you moving. It's a motivator. You need to hold yourself accountable to a few dates. So if it's about getting your first job after graduation, then you'll have to consider by what date you want to have that job offer in hand, and then work back from there around necessary activities that you should be doing. Um, let's say you want a job by the 1st of June and it's now mid-April, then you'll have to get a lot done pretty soon. So maybe you'd like to reach out to 4 people a week to introduce yourself and ask for an informational interview in person or virtually. It's that, is that doable for you? It's to think about what you can handle. If so, you'll need to spend quite a bit of time researching and connecting with people to land those informational interviews. But what exactly are informational interviews and what part do they play in networking? So the purpose of an informational interview is to gather information, not necessarily a job offer, but often the information may lead you faster into a job, or in many cases, the person you're speaking with may give you a very valuable referral. And ideally, sometimes they will have an opportunity they're aware of, and they may ask for your resume. So whatever you've met, so whether you've met someone at an in-person event or virtually, or maybe you get a referral to speak with someone doing a job you want to do, or at a company you'd like to work at, the next step is usually to ask for an opportunity to speak with them about what they do, how they got into their career, what they do in their job, what they like about their job, any tips they have for a new graduate currently job searching. These are all example of some of the topics that you want to bring up. This is what an informational interview is. You have them in order to get information to help you to make good career decisions. So, sorry, it might be a bit blurry. Here are a few questions to choose from about an interviewee's career field. So something you might ask someone if you sat down with them. These questions were created by Katherine Hansen, and they come from her excellent book called A Foot in the Door. You can pause now to read through them, or you can come back to them later as you create your own 10 questions that you want to ask in an informational meeting. And yes, you should have about 10 questions that you'd like to ask the person you're having an information session with. You typically only have 20 to 30 minutes with the person, so it's important to ask the questions where the answers will be most valuable to you. When you reach out to a person to ask for an informational interview, you're the one who is actually in charge. So you can ask for 20 to 30 minutes of their time to connect on a day that's convenient for them. Uh, be prepared. You're the one with the questions, so be prepared with your questions, but allow the chat on the day of the informational interview to be led by the other person who's speaking with you. They may want to talk a lot about their job, about their company, and that's okay. If you don't get all your questions answered, it's another reason to connect, maybe via email, and ask the rest of the questions. If you have both agreed to a time, then make sure that you keep your eye on the time. Once you are at that time, you can let them know and ask them if it's okay to continue a bit longer. So that's also where you're in charge. If they've given 30 minutes of their time, it's your job to keep track of that and let them know the 30 minutes is up. Is it okay to keep talking? And they can choose that if they want to do. There is so much that you can get from an informational interview. So online information from the internet can only give you so much information, but to actually sit down with someone in the field where you get a chance to really dive deeper into a career path in real time is priceless. You can learn about industry insights on upcoming trends, the health of the industry, growth opportunities, professional designations that are worthwhile pursuing. You can get a chance to discover company insights about workplace and performance expectations. You can learn about work culture, advancement opportunities. You can really start to build a professional network of those you now know that they know you, and they may be able to advocate for you or introduce you to other professionals. So you're really starting to build out a network, which is really important for you. So yes, the person you reach out to and speak to in person or virtually over the phone or whatever is now part of your network, and you need to keep them in your network by staying in touch. Let them know how your job search is going, things you learn that maybe that person would like to know. So sometimes it's interesting to pass on articles you hear about or things that you've read. Remember, networks are built over time, and so staying in touch is part of that building of the relationship. So first and foremost, an informational interview is for you to make a positive impression. Okay, it's a positive professional impression. It's really important. These are opportunities that allow you to establish your career or really move your career to new heights. So that is a big part of an informational interview or networking in general, is for people to get to know you. And so you want to present yourself in a really professional way. So here are some best practice tips for making the best impression. In person or online, dress business casual. When you meet, and this is virtually too, make eye contact and smile. You can introduce yourself, and in person, of course, you'd be ready to shake their hand. Some things you do, whether it's in person or virtually, is to make sure your cell phone is off. You're going to take notes. So if you're going in person, you might just bring a notepad or with a slim briefcase with your resume and a pen. You can ask them if it's okay to record on your phone. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do that virtually as well too. Would it be okay if you recorded the whole session? Everyone has a recorder on their phone nowadays, but you must ask permission. So make sure you research about the company and industry so you can create intelligent questions to ask in the meeting. Important that you take a good look at the person's LinkedIn to learn their work history and education so you can have some good questions about their story. Have your questions ready to go, so be all set to go. And prepare 10 questions maximum that you might ask. You can bring these in a written form. Remember, you have 30 minutes approximately, so decide which ones are the most important for you to ask. And be prepared to speak about yourself, why you chose to study what you did, what your experiences are so far, what you've enjoyed, what your skills are, where you'd like your skills to go further, or how to develop them further, your accomplishments, the visions for where you'd like your career to go. It's really, really important. And then, bring your resume just in case they ask for it. But don't offer it. Let them ask for it. And the reason is you don't want to come across as someone who only is sitting with them because you want them to offer you a job, or it's all about the job. Remember, you're there because you are curious about them and want to get insights and advice from them. And someone feels very honored when you reach out and you want to sit with them and learn about their work history and who they are. It feels really good. So you don't want to mess that up by then saying, hey, you got a job, or here's my resume. Do you have any work? You want them, you are building that relationship. Very, very important to remember. And remember to follow up with a thank you email or card within 24 to 48 hours. And this person is now a part of your network. So invite to connect on LinkedIn if you haven't already. Let that person know how things are going with your job search and once you have a position. So especially if they helped you in any way with information to land that job. So staying in touch is really important. So that's it. I mean, that's basically the crux of networking. I've included some resources that you should have a look at to help you decide which companies might be interesting for you. One is Top Companies Across Canada, as put out annually. These are top employers, put out annually by MediaCorp and sponsored by the Globe and Mail. Aluda.ca is a job search site you might know, but it also has a list of top employers for different reasons. Top employers for youth, top green employers, top employers for those over 40, all kinds of things. And it's in the top left-hand corner of their landing page. There's a book I highly recommend to read, which is this one here, A Foot in the Door by Catherine Henson. Very good. And I suggest you join 10K Coffees through GBC and start to make connections with mentors on the site and begin your adventures in networking in a safe and friendly environment that you know, so it's George Brown College, so that you are more relaxed about the concept of networking as you go forth. I'm a mentor on the site. It's a great way to pass on information to grads or students. So practice in an environment like that and reach out and do a little networking on 10,000 coffees. So I hope this webinar was helpful. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. alumni@georgebrown.ca. That's it. Thanks very much. Good luck, everyone.